good morning, all of my YouTube friends. Bear with me a second. I gotta get my coffee open here. Oh yeah, much better. So, today we're gonna be putting some paraquat down on our peas. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of weeds like safflower and a little bit of kochia that we're really trying to kill before we go and try to combine it, because any kind of large, heavy-stemmed green plant is really going to have a tendency to plug up your machine, which, as you'd have a pretty good assumption of, is the exact opposite of what we want. So, that being said, paraquat is a very effective chemical for desiccating, which is the act that we're performing right now. And desiccating is a broad term, would probably be defined more as intentionally killing your plants when they've matured to the point that they're ready to be harvested, but they haven't ripened yet. So basically all the peas are completely filled out, their pods are full of, the pea is fully developed inside the pod. But there are a couple spots where they're not fully green on top of, like I just said, the weeds. So we are going to go spray on those right quick, make sure that everything's nice and dead, and then sometime around early to mid next week we will go and get to work on harvesting all those. And that, peas, by saying that I mean peas, is the primary reason why we have a flex header, because typically all of your rigid drapers do everything that we need, because we cut our weed stubble a ways off the ground, kind of a no-till guy thing, really just mostly looking for cover and moisture protection. So that's really our primary goal here, and we can do that with wheat. Your head is a foot and a half or more possibly off the ground, and so you can leave that stubble cut a ways off the ground and you don't really need to get close. But with peas, they're a very low growing plant, and you have pods with harvestable product material that is all the way down to within a few inches of the ground, so you have to cut right along the ground. Well, with a rigid draper you cannot do that, so you have to get a flex header to contour with the ground. However, it's loud, clunky, really a lot of vibration comes off of it. It's just not something we really enjoy using. But yeah, I'm in a really tight spot, as you can see, because I've got the truck right in here and I have to get that little attachment. So we are going to figure out how to do that, and then I'm going to put the camera down to do that though. So I'll check back with you. So we got them all filled up, got my gloves here, and we are going to run down to the field with him. And before he starts spraying, I'm going to switch his nozzles over to the right ones, and then he will be on his way. I'll come back, get the rest of the water pumped into the tanks on the spray trailer, and we'll be ready to have another load waiting to put in the sprayer. Alright, let's get these nozzles switched over real fast and we'll get Dad rolling, getting these peas desiccated, because very shortly after we're going to be back in the full swing of harvesting. Both combines are all fixed and ready to go. Everything's functioning as it should, so we will be rolling 100% here in not very long.
human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. 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 We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there's room for everyone. The good earth is rich. It can provide for everyone. Greed has poisoned souls.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if that's what we want. It's not coming out too bad because the pump's kind of pulling all the water into it instead of pushing anything out of the little pinhole there. But I think at some point, if we have any, I'm going to replace that little hose there. That's because nobody wants a little leaky mess. And fertilizer's expensive. You got to conserve every little bit of it that you got. So, but right now, gonna fire up the old Honda, roll on back to the house, grab a couple things I need, and then I'll be back. So at the beginning of the season, we obviously went through our machines, got them greased up, but one thing that I forgot to do when I was greasing was doing the rotor shivs on Grandpa's combine. I did them on Isaac's right here, but for whatever reason, I forgot to do Grandpa's. So we are gonna go get that done, and it's a fun one to grease because it is right up in the engine bay. I mean, it's about as deep and dirty as you can get into a machine. So we're gonna go get that knocked out, and we haven't hit our 50 hour yet. Both of the timers have been, reset when we did our beginning of season greasing. And because all the combines have been kind of in and out of function a little bit sporadically, we still have not hit a 50 hour yet. So no greasing this morning. It's really just windows today, which I'm not really complaining about because I end up doing a lot of the combine service, even though I drive truck. We'll get that rotor shiv knocked out real quick and the combine service-wise should be all good. We got it fueled up yesterday before we quit when all that rain hit, which as a matter of fact, well, it started with wind and then it brought a bunch of rain. It cleared out and got still and actually got really cool. It was actually a pretty big cold front that blew in on us yesterday, but last night it started getting some crazy lightning, and as a matter of fact, Grandpa could see way out over that way down in some of the old bottom pastures. You saw a couple fires start up, and then thankfully some rain flared up and just dropped those fires down to nothing. We've been keeping an eye down in that way for any smolders from some smoke, but nothing yet, so I think we're all good there. But man, we could have had a big fire on our hands. We would have had to go out and fight last night if it wasn't for that rain. But the cold front's nice. It's actually cool out this morning, so it's a great day to go climb up in the engine bay of a combine. So I'm not really familiar with any other combines out there because I've only ever been around a 70 series STS pretty much my whole life that I can remember, that is. But when you're working on these, getting into the engine bay, you need a little stubby, thick screwdriver just to get that first little latch, and then the rest of these will just raise up nice and good. These are kind of a pain because you've got your extensions in the way, but I can kind of weasel my way on down there. So you take the old grease gun, the old Milwaukee with the lock and lube, where the high speed on it's actually broken, which is frustrating. So I might buy a new one at some point, just because it's always a good idea to have tools that are going to make your day a little more efficient. I'm glad I'm not doing this during barley because I would be itchy the rest of the day and probably the next week if I were to be doing this around barley dust. And you'll probably have a hard time seeing me now. But right down here at the very end of your rotor, There's your sheave, which is run off of a belt coming off the side of the engine. I don't even know if you can see me. You can probably see Isaac right here. But obviously you need to grease this because this thing is spinning constantly whenever you're harvesting and whenever your rotor is engaged. So it's a good idea to have it greased. I'm pretty sure this is a 200 hour, isn't it, Isaac?
Yeah, it's 200 hours.
Yeah. So, in other words, at least for us, once a season. Custom cutters will obviously be way different. But let's just take the grease to it and make sure that it is all in good shape. So that's the first grease point, all done right there. So we'll set this gun aside and rotate. Pretty much we're rotating the entire machine right now. You can hear the knives down back by the chopper spinning. And so there's a grease point on both sides of this sheave. I really wish that I could have the camera pointing down here a little bit better. But you've got your grease points on both sides of your sheave. So you go ahead and get those greased up real nice. Probably want to go ahead and put quite a bit of grease in them. And for anybody who isn't totally familiar with what a rotor is, so if you really didn't grow up around farming, it's the first stage in the threshing of your wheat or whatever else you're harvesting. So it's basically, there's a whole chain of processes, everything from your threshing to your cleaning, the whole process of separating the kernel of wheat from the rest of the ripened plant. And the rotor is what really does the most violent action. It's what beats the heads of wheat hard enough to kind of pulverize the entire plant. Because back in the day, when people would go and harvest their wheat, and this was before really any machinery was involved, it was all done by hand. You would go and you'd get all of your wheat shocks or, bundles of wheat. You would cut them obviously off the ground and you put them into big old piles, and someone would take a beater and just beat the tar out of them, and that would kind of help separate all of your kernels from the rest of your chaff. And then from there, I know that one method was just you would take, once you had mostly kernels with a little bit of chaff around it, you would go and you'd take a shovel and you'd find a windy day and you'd just toss it straight up in the air. The wind would blow the chaff away, but the wheat kernels are heavy enough that they won't be affected as much, and so it'll fall into a nice little pile where that's your clean grain. A combine really works on the same principle, but just at extremely large scale and a lot more efficient than that. And a lot of times your grain will turn out a little bit cleaner, but obviously, as anybody knows, that kind of harvesting method is just really not feasible today. I really can't think of very many people that would be up for harvesting 6,000-7,000 plus acres by hand. I know that I wouldn't. Farming wouldn't be my gig if that's what I had to do. But that's just kind of the beauty of modern equipment. Really is a blessing. And it's so cool to see how far not only farming, but really any industry has come over the years. But yeah, that combine right there is all ready to go. Well, I don't know if Isaac's quite done with the windows, but beyond that, they're all good to go. Fueled, greased, serviced, everything. And I'm pretty sure that the wheat is all, it's dry enough now. It's not too tough to harvest. So as soon as Dad gets done desiccating all those peas, we'll be ready to roll. So I forgot to bring my camera with me when I did this, but we went down to the hay field for a little bit of our second cutting hay to check on it, see if it was ready. And because of the rain last night, it's actually nowhere near close. And while we were over there, we took a look at the wheat, and it's not quite ready either. So we're going to check back after lunch. It's 11:30 right now. So we'll go and take another peek at it. I've got a hunch that it's still going to be a little while until we manage to actually get the machines rolling. So it's kind of just odd jobs and stuff now. I mean, really, there's not a ton to do once Dad gets wrapped up spraying. But we'll probably be harvesting at some point later today. But yeah, kind of slow going. We'll just see how it turns out.